Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today, I interview Ana Raynes. She is an entrepreneur and a digital marketing expert. You guys know I like to talk about marketing, so I've brought on another expert who comes from a very different background. So I think this is a great conversation. She's the owner of the marketing agency Simplified Impact, based out of Rhode Island, USA. Her original origins actually are in fashion, which I find really interesting to see how entrepreneurs kind of morph from one industry to the next. If you guys know, I started out doing the acting thing. And so I morphed from acting to design to podcasting, coaching. And I love the idea that you can be multi-passionate as an entrepreneur and sort of move from one area to another. She and I talk a little bit about some interesting tips about, the importance of the analytics and metrics in your social media marketing. We talk about niche marketing. We talk about having a niche or niche for your business and how valuable that is. We also, as usual, start to talk about just being a female entrepreneur, like your morning routine, the value of it. I talk about how hard it's been for me, and just, how you can work yourself out of your business if that's your goal. She has 20 people on her team. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this interview with Ana. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Are you as tired as I am working in a bubble? I mean, shoot. It's time to maybe socially distance with other people. That is why I love coming to the Collective Workspace. If you are someone who is looking for a little bit of stimulation, a lot of beauty, the Collective Workspace is a really great place to go. It is a co-working space for designers, architects, and builders in Toronto, and they're opening a second location this spring. They have flex workspace and offices starting at $120 a month. There's boardrooms, a podcast booth, which is where I am right now, concierge, storage, and a trade-only design library. You can find out more, or if you want to book a tour, go to thecollectiveto.com.
Okay, today I have Ana with me. I'm excited to have you here to share all the wisdom. Welcome to Resilient by Design.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm really excited, but before we dive into all the topics, can you maybe just introduce yourself to my listeners?
Sure. My name is Ana Raynes, and I am the owner and founder of a digital marketing agency called Simplified Impact, where we focus on helping, small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, really create a presence in the digital world. And my previous life, I was a fashion designer,
Oh, that's why you have such a beautiful blouse on with like billowy sleeves. I'm wearing like a white t-shirt and you look like styled. Well, tell us a little bit about that. That's interesting. So how did you move from fashion design to like marketing? And it's like, how did you make that transition?
Yeah. So I actually went to school for fashion design. That's what I studied. I was in the London College of Fashion, and I worked for almost 10 years in the industry designing. I went to China, did the whole, like one of the factories, traveling. It was super fun. I even had my own design line back in the day. I had a full functioning factory in Brooklyn. We had cutters, sewers, dyers, we did everything. We had an online business before people were selling online. It was really funny. And it was in a time in Brooklyn when Brooklyn was not cool. So it's not what it is today. So all of it was like you know, fast forward like 10, 15 years, I'm like, man, it's so cool now. But at the time, it was not, people were like, where do you sell? They're like, oh, online. That's weird, but
You were ahead of the curve.
yeah, yeah. But that's how I moved into marketing, honestly, is because like we did a lot of promotions on Facebook. Before Facebook was doing ads, it was like, I don't know, I was super young and I was like, this is the way. Actually, the way it started, my interest in marketing is really interesting. I always tell a story. I was working in fashion and I was like designing a line, and there was this girl that helped me, and she was like, well, my sister works at HBO and she's getting paid to preview the movies, and then she writes about them on, I can't remember it was one of the first blogging platforms, not Blogger, like really, really like one of the first. And I was like, what? I'm like, she gets paid and people care and they're interested in like, yeah, she has followers. I'm like, what are followers? And I was so confused. And she's like, yeah, people like they love it. They can't wait for her to talk about these movies. I'm like, it was so interesting to me that this girl who had, a pretty entry level job at HBO at the time this was her job. It was a social media position as it was then. So I found that really fascinating. And I was like, I need to meet her. So she started to tell me about what she did. And I was like, wow, that's so interesting. And when we were working, the line that I carried, that I ran and I did with a business partner at the time, was called Smart is Cool. So Smart is Cool, we had advisors, and one of them was Geraldine Laybourne, who founded the Oxygen Network. And she would tell us about like, oh, if you girls want to do something, like you want to make this big, they're like, go to YouTube. She would tell us all the time. She's like, just go to, like, YouTube's going to be everything. And this is when nobody was on YouTube. And,
Wow.
she had she took the Nickelodeon from nonprofit, which I never knew was a nonprofit, to
I did not know that either.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon was so cool when I was a kid.
Yeah. So it was a nonprofit project, and she turned it into a business. And she was like, it's just like all of the things, right? So interesting. And I found it also fascinating. Even, now I call myself like a mad scientist. Like I love data and just what's new and how do we like create something new out of nothing. So where my love for fashion comes from, and then marketing too.
That's so cool. Wow. Like it's so interesting to look back, hey, and think about your reaction to something. That woman, like YouTube, she was clearly right, obviously, because YouTube was like, it's definitely a thing. You can make money on it now. Turns out.
So crazy. Just so, yeah.
Do you have an insider scoop? What's the next big thing? Tell us now. You heard it here first. Is Clubhouse here to stay? What's the deal?
So I think that medium is here to stay. I don't think Clubhouse is, but I think that medium is. So I think like Facebook or Instagram or someone else would introduce that medium. They're already working on it, and it should be out, like, fairly soon. So that type of medium will stay, but I don't think Clubhouse will.
It's like whenever you're the first to market with an idea, you tend to not be the one who dominates. Like, you know what I mean? Like someone else is like, great. Like Uber was not the first ride sharing thing, right? But they just did it really well. They did it better and they took over. So interesting. Okay. So tell me, I guess, a little bit more about what you do now, because I think it's interesting. Like talk about that really clearly, like just tapped into like online marketing. And it's something that I know a lot of designers tend to not shy away from, but feel overwhelmed. Because like, to be fair, like I even feel overwhelmed and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. There's a lot out there, right? There's a lot of places that you can post your work, you can talk about what you do. And then there's this concept of like, how do you find that audience? And like, maybe just tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do now.
Yeah. So right now I work with brands really to raise their visibility. I work with some, consumer brands. I do work not really fashion, but more fashion forward brands. So I have a few of those. And then I have some B2Bs, but yeah, it's really understanding, well, how does your consumer want to engage with you, and what platforms, does your consumer want to engage with you? And really it's, the different social media platforms. It could be email, it could be video. Video is doing so well for us, for all of our clients, right? YouTube is really excelling. Pinterest is another one that was like kind of like a sleepy social that's really making a comeback. So I would say even for like designers, Pinterest is really performing very well.
What would you say though to like, well, video. Okay, let's start there. So like video, YouTube, actually, no, I'm going to take it back to what you first said, which was like understanding where your consumer, where your client is and what they're consuming. Like, how do you know that? Like, there's so many platforms. There's like Clubhouse, like we just mentioned. There's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's Pinterest. Like, that's just 6, and I'm sure I've missed some. So like, how do you find out where the people you want to reach are out?
Yeah. So, I mean, that starts with analytics, right? That starts with tracking, and we're really deep in the data and is understanding like, where did people come to you from? And it's tracking, like if you put something on Clubhouse, did you have the right UTMs? Did you track it well? Did you send them to a landing page? Was there a CTA so that you can understand like how effective, that you joining that Clubhouse was, or how effective, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, I would say it's the most important, is really the tracking piece, because then you do know where people are.
Right. And like, how do you, I guess what you mean is it's like looking at your analytics. So like on Instagram, it's actually like, I'm terrible at this. I have somebody who does this, thankfully, but it's looking like how many impressions did I get? Like how many people like acted on that link, or like, the swipe up or the click through, and how many people are, it's kind of like not a fun thing to do though.
That's funny. I find it really fun.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's why you do it, for the people who don't find it fun.
I think it's super fun. I think it's like one of the most fun things to do is to like dig into data and like look at the analytics and understand like people behavior and why, and how come this, not that, and what did they do after. So I find it fascinating.
Like, what would be the most telling data if you were talking about, let's say, Instagrams? A lot of designers, like, that's our platform. Whether they're commercial designers or residential designers, like Instagram seems to be the place because it's so visual. What are the metrics that are like the most important that we should be looking at?
Shares. Someone shares something that, you created or you posted, that is really important. Comments on it, just the engagement overall, watching your engagement, right? We actually work with on a few influencers. One of them is pretty big influencer, and she like is obsessed with her just impressions. How are they doing? What are the impressions per day? And then shares and stuff have a lot to do with that.
So would you say like, are impressions more important than likes?
It's not at all. So at the end of the day, how visible you are and how many people are seeing you all is a part of how many likes, shares, and comments you're getting, right? So it kind of all feeds into the same engine. So not that one's more important than the other. If you're not getting likes, then you're not getting impressions, you're not getting visibility, and the algorithm isn't favoring you.
Totally. I've seen that even with my own Instagram. Like the last few months, I've kind of fallen off because business got really busy, and I'm sort of the one who's spearheading. I don't do all my social, but I do the stories, right? Like that's me, like document. Here I am on a job site. Here I am recording a podcast or whatever. And I noticed I was penalized because I slowed my roll a little bit. And then when I started storying, I was like, what? I used to have like 1,000 people's like eyes on my stories, and now I've got like 299. What the frick happened?
Yeah.
And I think it was because so now I've been making a conscious effort. It's been 2 weeks already, and now the numbers are starting to climb again.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Exactly. That's
so interesting.
Yeah. This influencer noticed that too, that if she didn't post a few times a day and at the certain times, like she has her analytics, like she knows and tracks it so well. But I mean, she's, her followers are in like the hundreds of thousands. So she like And that's how she makes her money, right?
Right. So that's her business. It's a bit different when you're trying to run a business and you're just using Instagram as a tool to promote your business than using that to make money. Right.
Yeah.
So what do you say, like, for people who are not influencers, which is probably most of us, how do you use these platforms to grow your, like, to make money? Let's be honest.
Yeah. It's just really being out there. It's being out there. It's having that visibility, because people will notice you. And when the time comes and they need to recommend you or they need to think of you, then there you are. The other thing is, not being lazy about it. Every platform needs its own content that we're noticing so much with our clients. So really posting natively to each place, which can be a lot of work.
So, like, not just like posting on one and that same thing just goes to the other platforms, right? Like, that's bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't do very well. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I know a lot of people that do that because, well, we're busy, right?
Yeah.
So we get a little lazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we do if the client doesn't have a lot of time, or we'll test it that way. And we'll be like, okay, if this is starting to take off a little bit, then we create like a strategy around that other platform. But like I said, Pinterest has really been taking off lately. I would recommend that for anyone doing anything creative.
So for me, it's interesting because I have two businesses, right? So I've got my interior design business, which is attracting like more or less local people for design and decor. And then I have a separate business, which is like online courses for designers, which is technically, so I've got like a B2C, which is, for those listening, is business to consumer. And then I have B2B, which is business to business, right? Because I am selling online courses and coaching other designers on how to run their business.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I've seen a really incredible difference in how you can target and reach those potential customers, the B2C versus B2B. And honestly, in my opinion, and I don't know, I'd be interested in your insight, B2C, like to the end consumer, is so much harder.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Than B2B.
B2B is so much easier.
Why? Why is that?
It's much more competitive. It's more impulsive. It's, there's just so much about it, it just like, yeah, it takes to build a brand. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's definitely, B2B is much easier for sure. And we work with some B2Bs and B2Cs, and the B2Bs are definitely, they just sell faster, bigger. Yeah. Much.
I mean, part of it could be also that when you're trying to sell your service to a business, you're already like, it's not personal. Whereas when you're selling to a consumer, there's so much emotion, I think, involved in a purchase. Whereas with a business, I mean, you're the expert, you can correct me, but with a business, there might be some emotion involved, but really it's usually like, I've budgeted this amount of money to pay for this thing, or I need this money, or for courses, for example, like it's an investment. You can write it off. There's so many different things.
Yeah. The mental, like, yeah. The thought around that is very different, and exactly what you're saying, like I work with a lot of coaches who have courses and, different things, and, as clients, and I also have coaches too myself. And I mean, I definitely have made investments in a coach that I don't think, or courses that I don't think I would do in anything else. Like I wouldn't pay them. Kind of, you know what I mean? Like, but I justify, like, and it's not that it's justified, but I do see the results. That's the other thing. Like, you're like, buying a shirt, you're like, okay, it looks nice, whatever, 2 weeks later, you're like, right? But when you purchase something, you do see it in multiples. You're like, oh yeah, that had to do with this. Like, look how much money. Like, there's this justification that comes. I feel like there's just the emotional ROI is much higher.
Yeah. So it's like, if I put in $5,000 on this end, I hopefully will then make 10,000 or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an ROI. Yeah, that's something that I find really interesting. And I know it can be frustrating for designers, for anyone listening to this podcast right now. If you have a business client, so like commercial design is a great example. Like commercial design, you are designing for a company, right? And so often there's a set budget. They also, I'll tell you from the design perspective, usually they're less personally invested in the like exact fabric, the colors, the finishes. They want a feeling, they want it to function. And so sometimes it can be a little bit easier. I think it's easier to attract those people because it's a very specific need when it's a niche. Like, talk to me about this idea of like niche marketing. Like, I know designers hear the word niche and they're like, or niche, whatever, and they're like, oh, well, then I might be like eliminating all these other potential clients. Like, I don't want to get too specific. But like, I think specificity, what the heck?
I think that specificity. Yeah.
Being specific is really how you're going to get the biggest return. Like, talk to me a little bit more about this like idea behind niche marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I just took actually, speaking of courses, I just did a course because I work with HubSpot a lot. So with one of their lead salespeople, I mean, he was like number 2 in the company, like he's like $1.5 million. But anyways, and his favorite thing to say is that riches are in the niches. So he's like, when you niche down, and he's like, that doesn't mean that you don't attract other people. It just means that that's what it is. I also have an accountant. I mean, I think he's like the wealthiest accountant I've ever met. He's my accountant now. We like hired him. He's amazing. And it's funny because when you look at his website and you look at his branding, he does, profit first accounting for gyms. And I asked him about that. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And he was like, oh, it was just a way of like, really like, growing my business quickly because I had a niche to go after. He's like, but I can serve anybody. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's just numbers. Right. So
wow.
It's a really fast way to attract clients, and then they start to recommend you, right? They're like, oh my gosh, you did such a great job. Do you work with these other business? You're like, yeah, of course I do. Of course I can design for, whoever.
Oh, that's so interesting. I never thought of it that way. That I think, especially if you're starting your business and you're just starting out, it's almost so like what you're saying is the opposite of what I would think. Where I would think that when you're first starting out, like you want to just like take whatever you can get, like you'll design for anybody and everybody. But actually, if you really narrow down your focus at the beginning, then you could grow quickly and then you can broaden the scope of who you can serve.
Yeah, exactly. Because the other thing is that with that growth comes this other, your mindset changes, right? And mindset is such a big deal in business. I work with so many mindset coaches. And what happens is that you go from needing to allowing, right? Because eventually you start to get clients and, I know we're in different industries, but still we're service-based. And it's almost like you already don't have their money. So it's like, oh, okay, well, whether I close them or not, I already don't have that, right? In the beginning, you're like, I really need that money, right? But you get to a point where you're like, oh, well, it just, the balances change. And I feel like you more easily like attract because people are like, wait, what do you mean? Like, I really want to work with you because your approach to it is different.
Yeah. I mean, mindset, I'm learning too. Mindset in business is everything. And I think especially for female entrepreneurs, sometimes it's a lot harder to have that confidence. And you can talk yourself out of something. Or I know like, especially when you talk about this like niche marketing, it's the idea that I don't want to isolate anybody. I want to appeal to everybody. I'm really nice. I want everyone to think that I can work with them. But it actually, like you think you're servicing everyone, but then you're doing yourself a disservice. You almost need to like make a decision, put yourself out there and have the confidence and be in that mindset that I can say no to this one. It's going to make room for another one. If that makes sense, like a project.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about, in the notes that I was reading, it talks about how you leaving New York helped you to grow as an entrepreneur. What does that mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, do you have to move to become an entrepreneur? Like, I'd love to learn about that evolution.
It's just something funny. When I was moving and when I was leaving the fashion industry. And, a lot of my friends at the time, they were like, oh my gosh, career suicide. You're moving to such a small state. What are you going to do? There are no jobs. So to me, that was almost like I dare you to, I dare you to like,
I'll show you.
yeah. And I was like, okay, watch me, watch me like blow this out of the water. So more like that than anything else. I don't think you have to move. It's funny because I think there is a misconception. Like sometimes people get like fed up with what they're doing and they're like, I'm just going to leave. But, you go with you, right? So all of the things go with you too. But the reason I moved was my boyfriend at the time he just was not a fan. So he's like, I'm out of here. I was like, okay, I'll come. But
Were you in New York City?
Mm-hmm, yeah. I grew up right over the GW, right in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And then I was in school, I worked in the city for like my entire life. So
and now you're in Rhode Island.
Now I'm in Rhode Island. Yeah.
I feel like I've been there. My sister lives in Boston, and I think can you drive from Boston to like Providence? Is that Rhode Island?
Yep.
And there was this was several years ago, pre-pandemic. And they had like a jack-o'-lantern festival at Halloween. No, would it be there?
Yeah. Yep. It's at the Roger Williams Park Zoo, and they have all these crazy
It was really cool. It was like this Halloween, like you could walk through.
Yeah, you walk through it, and they have all these scenes. It's awesome.
Outside.
It's all done. Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. So that's the one time I've been to Rhode Island. It doesn't really count, probably.
Yeah, you know what? If you ever get a chance to go, she still lives there. I would go to Newport. It is gorgeous.
Okay, she does still live there. I mean, here I am in Canada. We are literally opening our lockdown today.
Yeah, but it's like 10% or something like that. Crazy, right? You're like only opening a little. I'm like, what is going on in Canada?
I know. Tell me about it. But the good news, this is a total sidebar. Because my sister's in Boston, she's married to an American, they've opened up the border because we used to have to quarantine for 2 weeks when people came into the country. Mm-hmm. And if you flew in, the government was making you quarantine in a hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Which is like a whole other slew of problems. So now they've lifted that. So she can, because we want her to come home and visit in the summer. But for her to come home, she did this last year. She came home, she quarantined for 2 weeks and then was like, I have 5 days to see everyone. And then I had to get back to my job and my life and my husband and everything. So hopefully this year will be better. But I love going down to that area. I mean, I feel like my heart is in what I imagine Nantucket, Cape Cod, coastal,
yes, that's
seaboard.
Newport. Yeah, Newport is just like that. It's so nice. It's so beautiful. But yeah, Cape Cod, Nantucket. I love New England. So
New England. That's right. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Maybe I'll move there one day, and that'll spark a new entrepreneurial journey for me.
Yeah.
I do think there's something to be said for moving or traveling or making kind of a big life change sometimes can be the impetus you need to take a bold leap forward, right? Mm-hmm. To go forth and try something new, because it's almost this much change is happening already. May as well tack on something else. Mm-hmm. Especially as an entrepreneur, I think sometimes entrepreneurs need to shift and pivot and change direction.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, it's why you moving your body, but at a bigger level, right? You're just a bigger shift just to get it all going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always get my team to when we have our Monday meetings, we have there's 5 or 6 people on my team in my design business. And I'm okay, everyone stand up. I'm putting some music on. We play because we're still in Zoom right now, and I make everyone stretch and dance and move, because moving your body will change your physical state. Cause everyone's sitting, staring at a computer all the time now. Okay. I don't know about you, but we're still not back in person.
Yeah, everybody has a choice right now. We can be in the office. I go to the office. I have another employee that does, but most people just stay home, which is fine. It's work, doesn't matter.
We found a way to make it work. So how many people do you have working for you?
Right now, 20. So.
Oh my gosh. That's so many people. What do they all do?
Oh my God. We have everything from developers to graphic designers to, analytics to SEO. We have a content writer. We have a few project managers. So we have one lead project manager, two junior project managers, or junior project managers, actually. So we just hired two more. Yeah, it's like crazy. It's crazy.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. But today my team's like, because we're working through a project, and I was like, okay, I had to do some things tonight. I'm like, and after I'll be back on to like make sure it's getting done. And they're like, do you sleep? I'm like,
well, it's your business, right? So entrepreneurs aren't allowed to sleep.
I know. Oh God. I know. It's so bad. It's such a, and I have so many friends that are entrepreneurs and have taken their business growth a little slower. Right. And they do get like the 8 hours, and I try to get 8 hours of sleep, and sleep is so important. So I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It's like,
you need to take time for yourself though, too. Right?
Yeah, no, I do. And, but it is a struggle. I'm like, I'm like, okay, got to get the 8 hours. And then at like 6, I'm like,
oh, so you're an early riser.
Yeah. I mean, at like the 6 hour mark, I get up really early,
6 hours.
but I always have been. I usually get up by like 4. By 4 I'm up.
By 4 in the morning, like 4:00 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That like club to like a whole new level. What time do you go to bed, girl? Oh my gosh,
really early. I have a 7-year-old, so I go to bed super early. When she goes to bed, I go to bed. So I'm usually in bed like by 9. I'm in bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to bed early, but yeah, I like that. I love. There's nothing better to me than that quiet. Like, and it's different from like day quiet, that night quiet, like even like you could hear like chirping, like it's just so, it's like the best. It's like my brain, it feels so relaxed.
Do you have a morning routine? Like what do you do when you wake up at 4 a.m.?
Yeah, I do. So I get up, I do some meditation, and then I do, I know it sounds so cheesy. Like, I'm like, do you really do that? No, but I really do every day. Like meditation, I do journaling. And then sometimes I'll just like, read a book. I'll catch up on like knowledge, not just like emails, right? Like things that are going on in the industry. And then I'll like jump into email and all the things. So.
And that's all before breakfast, like before.
Yeah. So my daughter usually gets up around like 6:30. So then it's like mom time till like about 8:30. And then I'm off to work.
Oh my gosh. The morning routine is something that I know like every successful person has a really solid morning routine, and I am still not there. I feel like I've been trying for 3 years. I have 2 little kids. I have a 6, almost 7-year-old and a just turned 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And so like, I just find that like the mornings I try to get up early, it's like, there's like an energy in the house and they know that mommy's up. And so it's like, boing, mommy.
Oh yeah. I had that a lot when my daughter was little. So around like, I would say between 5 and 6, I think it changes a little bit, but for sure. And then what happens? So I totally feel you. And I'm not saying like, it takes a while, especially as a mom. And I did the same thing where I let go of my morning routine for a while, because what would happen was, instead of being like this, like, okay, I'm starting my day like a power player, I was like pissed. And I'm like, I'm up right now.
No, I know. And then it's like, does the opposite. Because it's like, exactly. Yes, I'm going to start my morning. You're like, damn you totally messed it up.
You messed me up. And then you're just angry. So what I would do, actually, my morning routine then, when I had my daughter, she was younger and she was getting up, and she then I would just put on really fun music, and then we would like have a dance party before we would actually do the thing. So that was kind of like, honestly, it's just about feeling good, like starting your day like, okay, it's going to be a good day. So like, we would have like we still do once in a while, but I remember her being really little, and like every morning was a dance party, or like, we'd pick a song. Like, what's the song for today that we're going to like just get energized? And yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. You're such a cute mom.
Sometimes.
That's so fun. But you know what? I like that you said that. It's a really good point. The whole point behind the morning routine is to start your day strong, to feel energized and positive. And so I think the idea is like by getting up early, you can like set your intentions and meditate and all the things that people do. But it's about not feeling like you're behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of the mornings I feel like I sleep in because I'm so tired, and then I want to start my day with intention, but then I'm just reacting because I haven't gotten up early enough, and I'm like trying to squeeze in a shower between making breakfast, making sure the kids are dressed and ready for school, and then like did I even think to bring the thing that I need to bring to the office, and like it just feels like a scramble. And then when I get to the office, if I'm lucky, I get like a pause. I might meditate. It's a new thing for me. Trying it out, see if it fits. But if not, if I have a full day of stuff going on, I'm just like catapulted in and I'm like, boom, I'm on and on and on. And then at the end of the day, I'm exhausted because I literally wake up. It's like I wake up and I'm just like, boom, go. Like someone has launched me like a rocket or a slingshot out of bed. And like in the nature of my business, like whether I'm coaching or I'm like presenting to a client with designs, like I'm sure you're like that too. And you've got a team, you have to manage 20 people.
Yeah.
I have to manage 6 people. That feels like a lot some days.
No, I know. But like people we're starting to create departments and like sub managers, and I've come off all calls now. And it's this like really interesting transition, and it was so scary because I was like, how do I come off calls? What are the clients going to think? Like, are they going to feel like they're not being serviced? Like, I don't know. It was just really scary. And like, literally I was like, June 1st, I'm not going on calls. That's it. Done. And then nobody noticed.
Nobody complained. No one's like, where's Anna? And then you cry a little in the corner, like, they don't need me.
I know. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the same thing in my business. I'm the first point of contact with my clients, and I go to a consultation, look at their home, and then once they sign on, I hand it over to a project lead. Yeah. I'm still involved in the design, but my project lead emails the client weekly, is the one who goes to site to do things. Like they are not in continual communication. And the transition to that was a little bumpy because a couple times I realized I didn't set the expectation with my client when they hired. And so they were kind of like, this felt like a bit of a bait and switch. Like we thought we were hiring you. And even though like, let's say Ashley is so lovely, I mean, we just feel a little bit duped. So I've started to learn that from the very beginning, I tell them I've got this great team. Every project has a project lead. That's who will communicate with you. I introduce them so that they feel like they're just really in good hands. But it's nice not to have to be involved in all the things, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it really is. But then there's more things, right?
It's just different things. It's not like all of a sudden you like put your feet up. You're like, cool, just call me if there's an issue. I'm going to have a cocktail. Like that's not the reality.
I know. That was what I like in my head. I'm like, yeah, no, just kidding. I knew that wasn't going to happen, but still, you wish that.
Yeah. But I think as a business owner, it's important to like free yourself up to focus on big picture. I don't know what it is for you, but like for me, it's like ensuring that our systems are all in place. Like our contracts are up to date. Our onboarding is like top notch because those are the things that kind of, fall to the wayside when you're in the middle, when you're like the owner operator of everything.
Yeah.
And then there's like an element of trust.
Yeah.
That your team can do it.
And I think that's the make or break of every business. And I think that's what, when you're starting out, you don't realize that those, sometimes it's not the thing. Sometimes you could be like the best designer, but if you're onboarding or, the process, all of that isn't intact, that's what makes or breaks because people are like, I don't know. I was talking to my friend the other day. She owns a hair salon, and it was interesting for her to say that because it's so different from what I do. And she was like, she just hired someone new and they're doing makeup and she hasn't done makeup in her salon before. And she's like, what I've noticed and why I think this girl is going to do really well in her career because she's very young is because she's really good at making the client feel really good about themselves. And she knows from so many years in business that as long as you do that, even if the person doesn't exactly love like the hair right away or the makeup right away, if they felt good through the process, they, they feel better walking out and they come back. It's when they're like, kind of like, oh, I don't know. And then they leave and they're like, I didn't really feel good. And even though they look amazing, they don't. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting, because I feel like it's like that in every business. It's how that person felt through the process, whether they come back and then recommend you rather than what was the final outcome. They might end up hating the process was so like bumpy.
So true. Oh my God. I feel like I've done all the things, but I've been that designer who is like so obsessed with the end result and not paid any attention to the client experience or even having a process that the client sat me down. I call it my lemon job, which was my big aha moment, where they sat me down. They're like, Rebecca, everything you did here is beautiful. We love our house. We think you are lovely. But ... we felt like your process was chaotic, that you didn't listen to our needs when it came to budget, like all the things that are like dagger to the heart.
Oh, I know. I've been
because
there.
It's true. It's like, I think a lot of business owners have been there, because you're trying to do everything and you're so focused on the end because you want it to be so, like, I want the room to be so beautiful at all cost, at all like time, like all the things. But you're so right. I often say, like, to designers, it's not about how beautiful the room is in the end, because ultimately, often our clients, they're not as like A-type OCD as we are. And so whether the drapes are blue or blue and white stripe or blue with polka dots, like, probably doesn't make an effing difference to them, right? But what matters to them is how you treated them and how you made them feel.
Yeah, for sure. So true.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so before we wrap up, is there anything else, like any other little nuggets of wisdom you'd like to share?
No, I mean, nothing that I can think of right now. I think this was a really lovely conversation. Thank you. It's been really good.
I love talking about entrepreneurship. I love especially like supporting other female entrepreneurs, seeing like, wow, 20 employees. Like, I don't even know that sounds like a lot. I don't even know if I want that. I used to want that. Managing people is a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Well, tell my audience if they want to follow you or learn more about what you do, where they can find you.
Yeah, just simplifiedimpact.com is the best place, right? We have all our everything there. So yeah, just simplifiedimpact.com and come find us there.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Simplified Impact. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And go and enjoy your open, non-lockdown life. Thanks, Anna. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Marketing is it's always interesting to hear someone else's take on where you need to be when it comes to a digital platform. I love marketing. You know, guys, I have my Momentum Marketing course coming out again this fall. If you're interested in finding out more about that course that I offer, and you can get on the wait list because it's not open yet for enrollment, you can go to RebeccaHay.com/momentum. And let me know what you thought of this episode. I think that interesting takeaway for me from this was the morning routine discussion, because you know how much I've struggled with trying to get that morning routine and understanding to just give myself grace. I loved her idea about like dancing with my kids in the morning, like whatever it is to get you into that great spirit, right? That like wonderful mood and kind of looking at what's behind the need for a morning routine. It's driven by starting your day well. So I think that if you can't do the 5 a.m. or as Anna does it, 4 a.m. morning routine, you could just find something that works for you. So I'll report back on that. Anyhow, I hope you guys have a really great day, and I'll see you soon.